That idea Sokolov had of planting C3 on the liquid...
Sigint.
Yo.
Eva said she set up a ground...
You know that army motor... Ah, you're using the survival knife.
Yeah. This thing provides me with all the bare essentials I need to survive in the field.
Hey, wait. What'd you do with the knife I made you? That was a work of art. It had matches and fish hooks and thread and stuff in the grip.
Sorry to have to tell you this, but that thing is useless in a fight.
No way. Really?
Yeah. When the grip is hollowed out like that, there's not as much space to stabilize the blade. So the joint between the blade and the grip is weaker. That makes it easier to break.
I get it. You're right. With your knife, you don't have to worry about it breaking no matter how much you swing it around. So the important thing is durability. Man, I gotta write this stuff down. Next time, I'll make it so the matches and fish hooks go in the sheath instead. The weapon you've got equipped now is a prototype model of the Mark 22, a suppressor-equipped pistol currently in development by the Navy. It's been modified to act as a tranquilizer gun. The Mark 22 is a heavily modified special ops version of the M39 pistol used as a sidearm by the SEALs. Probably the biggest change from the M39 is that it's got a longer barrel, which allows it to be equipped with a suppressor. And it uses a slide lock mechanism. That makes it a lot quieter, but it also means you have to load a new round into the chamber by hand every time you fire. It's also fitted with tall, adjustable sights, so you can use the front and rear sights to line up your shot, even with a suppressor attached.
Looks like they got rid of the magazine safety, too.
Good eye. That feature wasn't too popular with guys like you who know their guns. The shear release lever's been taken off as well, meaning the hammer won't fall even with the safety on.
So I can just cock and lock.
That, and you get the added bonus of not having any mechanical noise from decocking, even with the safety on. The perfect pistol for a sneaking mission, huh? Hey, you've got an M1911A1.
Yeah, a 45. 50 years since the Army adopted the first model, and they're still using them. It's a real gem of an automatic pistol.
But aren't you gonna need more than just one little handgun?
Not at all. When you're in a tight spot or fighting in close quarters, sometimes a handgun works better than a rifle. And if I equip a knife at the same time, I can instantaneously switch over to hand-to-hand combat.
I see. That 45 you've got there is a lot different from the original, though. Looks like someone did some serious work on it.
It's more than a little. First of all, the feeding ramp is polished to a mirror sheen. It's not going to have any feeding problems. The slide's been replaced with a reinforced version, and it meshes perfectly with the frame. The frame itself has been iron welded and scraped down multiple times for maximum precision. The front strap part of the frame has been checkered to make it dig into the hand. That prevents any slipping. The sight system's original too. It's a 3-dot type. It's got an enlarged front sight, giving it superior target sighting capability. The regular hammer's been replaced with a ring hammer. That enhances the cocking control and increases the hammer down speed. They also reworked the grip safety to accommodate the ring hammer. Looks like they eliminated it altogether. This is a tool for pros. The thumb safety and the slide stop are extended to allow for more precise handling. The base of the trigger guard is whittled down so you can use a high grip. And the trigger itself is a long type for easy finger access. The trigger pull is about 3.5 pounds. That's about 1.5 pounds lighter than normal. The magazine well has been widened to make it easier to put in a new magazine. The magazine catch button has been cut down low to make it harder to hit it by mistake. The mainspring housing has been changed to a flat type to increase grip. And it's even been fitted with stepping so it doesn't slip from the recoil when firing. On top of that, they added cocking serrations to the front part of the slide. That lets you load and eject cartridges faster in an emergency. Whoever did this is a professional. No question, this thing could shoot a one-hole at 25 yards in a machine rest.
Well, I'll be damned. That's some gun.
Yeah, I've never used a weapon this fine in my life.
You say you're using a single-action army. The single-action Army was first manufactured in 1873. It's been in production ever since then, except for a short hiatus. People started calling it the single-action Army after the Army adopted it as their official sidearm in 1875. It's also sometimes called the Peacemaker, owing to the fact that a lot of sheriffs used it to keep law and order in the Old West. There are a lot of different models. The one you've got is probably the black powder model. The single-action Army uses 45 long Colt rounds. It's powerful enough to fire a 255-grain bullet at an initial velocity of 800 feet per second. The muzzle energy is almost 10% higher than the 45 ACP bullets the M1911A1 uses. You want stopping power? You got it. The only thing is, it takes a while to reload. This is a gun with history. You can do all sorts of tricks with it. Why don't you practice with it for a while? Go into first-person view and use the right stick. Using the Patriot, huh?
Yeah, it's the same one the boss was using.
Where'd you get it? I said, where'd you get it?
Sigint, don't get worked up over details.
What? Whatever. Anyway, the Patriot is a one-of-a-kind sidearm made especially for the boss. It's basically an XM16E1 with the barrel cut short and the stock taken off. The idea was to create a large pistol that combined the feel and quick handling of a handgun with the force of a rifle. But with a barrel that short, the recoil is unbelievable. It's tough to aim, but it more than makes up for it in firepower. From the looks of it, it's fitted with a 100-round drum magazine. And it never runs out of ammo?
Never.
Why is that?
Because the internal feed mechanism is shaped like an infinity symbol.
Ah, I get it. Yep, that'll give you unlimited ammo. Ah, a handkerchief soaked with a knockout drug, you say? With that thing, I'll bet you could put the enemy to sleep just by grabbing them in CQC. You could also press the weapon button to wave the hanky around and spread the knockout drug that way. But there's only enough drug for one use, so you'll have to go soak it if you want to use it again. You should be able to find some sort of anesthetic around there. So, you found yourself a cigarette-shaped narcosis gun. The cigarette-shaped narcosis gun is just what the name says, a sleeping gas gun shaped like a cigarette. It must be a test model that Grannon's lab is working on for KGB spies. Equip it and press the weapon button to fire sleeping gas. It's got a short range, but any enemy that gets hit by the gas will be knocked out cold. Snake, what do you have in your hand?
A fork. Why?
A fork? What'd you do with your knife? It ain't dinner time yet.
Sigint, you have to think bigger than that. A fork's good for more than just eating dinner.
Oh yeah? Like what?
It's a weapon.
A weapon?
Yeah, I can use it with the weapon button the same way I use the survival knife. This mission is all about procuring on site. I have to use whatever limited equipment I can find, any way I can to achieve my objective. So I have to make the most out of every item by adapting them to different situations. Take this fork, for instance. At first glance, it looks useless, but it can be an effective weapon if used the right way. You have to learn to think flexibly and see all the different possibilities.
Think flexibly, huh? Thanks for the advice, man.
No problem. And the best part is, if I use this to spear a snack, I can eat it right there without having to put it in my backpack first.
I knew it. You are using it to eat. I see you're equipped with a Scorpion. The Scorpion is a new type of small submachine gun made in Czechoslovakia.
I've heard of it, but...
But you never used one, right? Well, they only started making it 3 years ago, after all. There are a bunch of different models of Scorpion. What kind of rounds does that one take?
32 ACP.
Then it's gotta be the VZ-61. The Scorpion is different from a lot of other submachine guns in that it operates on a closed bolt system. So you get a high degree of precision even when firing in semi-auto mode. Another special feature on the Scorpion is the rate reducer, a mechanism that also functions as a shock absorber. What it does is lock the bolt in place for a split second when it's in the rearward position. That keeps the firing rate down to a reasonable level and also helps make the gun easier to control when firing in full auto mode. The Scorpion's firing rate is 750 rounds per minute. It ought to be a heck of a lot easier to control than the Mach 11, which has a rate of 1,200 rounds per minute. You should be able to handle it with one hand no problem in semi-auto mode. In full auto mode, you could probably manage short bursts. And it looks like that one's fitted with a laser sight, too. The Soviets probably developed this one on their own. You can't use the aim button to aim from the shoulder, but with the laser sight accuracy, it shouldn't be that big of a problem. Snake, you gotta...
I know. It's some new kind of rifle out of the West. Looks kind of like a black rifle.
No, it's not an AR-15. It's an XM16E1, a top-of-the-line rifle that the Army adopted recently on a trial basis. The U.S. military was working on a new concept for a light infantry weapon from the late 40s through the mid-50s. In the end, they decided they wanted a .22 caliber high muzzle velocity rifle with full auto capability. What they came up with was the AR-15, the so-called black rifle. The one you've got there, the XM16E1, is a modified AR-15 that's been fitted with a bolt forward assist. I heard they're doing performance evaluations down in Southeast Asia.
So they captured one in Vietnam and brought it here?
That's my guess. But that thing looks a lot different from a regular XM16E1. There must have been a gunsmith present at the field test who made all these modifications on the spot. The fact that it's painted in camouflage colors shows that more and more people these days are starting to realize the importance of camouflage.
They made it so it takes a suppressor, too.
Yep, that's a nice feature to have for a recon unit on a sneaking mission deep in enemy territory. You can attach and detach the suppressor by opening the weapon window and pressing the enter button. Oh, and the firing mechanism's been modified to enable 3-shot bursts.
Why the hell would they do that?
These days, a lot of new recruits aren't used to firing in full auto mode. They have no trigger control and end up emptying the whole clip at once. Maybe they were experimenting with ways to prevent that and came up with the burst mechanism as a possible solution.
Stupid idea, if you ask me.
Hey, give it a chance. It might come in handy. Open the weapon window and press the action button to switch between semi-auto, full auto, and 3-shot burst modes. Have fun with that. Got yourself an AK-47, huh? The AK-47 is the official assault rifle of the Soviet Army. The first model was completed in 1946, and in '49, it beat out all its competitors to become the standard assault rifle of the Soviet military. It uses 7.62 millimeter by 39 rounds developed in 1943, and a 30-round box magazine originally designed for a different assault rifle. You can aim it from the shoulder by equipping it in first-person view and holding down the aim button. It's sturdy and extremely reliable with high power and precision. There's no better assault rifle in the world. I see you got yourself an M63. The M63 is an American-made system weapon.
Yeah, I've heard of it before,
But you never got your hands on one. Doesn't surprise me. It's brand new. They only developed it last year. I'm thinking they probably captured some in Southeast Asia and sent them back for research. The term system weapon refers to a design where most of the parts are interchangeable, allowing you to create a lot of different variations from a single original model. Using a set of basic components as the core, you can mix and match parts to create any number of different weapons. It's like a convertible rifle. By switching barrels and magazines around, you can make everything from an assault rifle and a carbine to a light machine gun and even a belt-feeding medium machine gun. Not only does this save the trouble of having to organize a bunch of different weapons on different lines, but it also has the added benefit of cutting down on the amount of training needed for each soldier. Most of the parts are made by presswork and lost wax casting, so they can be manufactured in countries that lack a developed technological base.
nice touch.
The variation you've got there is the belt-fed light machine gun. It was originally designed for use in squad support missions.
It's a lot lighter than the M60.
Yeah, you won't find a lighter weight light machine gun than that. It ought to be pretty easy to handle in the jungle. Make good use of it. Ah, you've got an SVD. That's the Soviets' top-of-the-line semi-automatic sniper rifle, adopted just last year. SVD stands for the Russian words that mean Dragunov Semi-Automatic Sniper Rifle. For a long time, the standard Russian sniper rifle was the Mosin Nagant. But at the beginning of the 1950s, when Soviet troops started carrying automatic rifles and assault rifles, the need for an automatic sniper rifle increased. The SVD was developed to fulfill that need. It can use the same ammo as the Mosin Nagant, 7.62mm by 54 rim cartridges, but they developed a new type of ammo with a tighter firing pattern to go along with it. I heard that these new rounds have a steel core and are 2.5 times more precise than regular rifle bullets. Nothing can match that thing in terms of precision. Try it out for yourself and see how powerful it is. When you equip a sniper rifle, you'll go straight into first-person view. Once you're in position, press the aim button to look through the scope. The trigger is the weapon button as usual. You can change the magnification on the scope by pressing the action button. You can fire from a standing position, but your aim will be a heck of a lot steadier if you're lying down. Try it out. A torch? A little primitive, but a light's a light. From what I can tell, that torch is made of white birch dipped in turpentine. It burns long, so I don't think you'll have a problem with it burning out on you. If you equip it and press the CQC button, you can use it to smack the enemy. You can also swing it around by pressing that button repeatedly. Useful when you need to clear the room of bats and stuff. With the weapon button, you can light and extinguish a torch, so make sure that thing is out if an enemy is closing in. Get used to it. The light from the torch is visible from a long way off, though. It probably goes without saying, but marching into battle with a torch in your hand is not the sanest course of action. You should only light a torch when you're someplace like a cave where you can't find your way around without a light.
Yeah, I hear you.
You're using an RPG-7, huh? The RPG-7 is a state-of-the-art, portable anti-tank weapon developed as the successor to the RPG-2. It first saw active deployment in 1962, year before last. Actually, maybe portable is not the right word. The launcher and the grenade together weigh over 20 pounds. It's not something you can use on the move. When you equip it, make sure you use first-person view to aim.
Got it.
You can fire it as soon as you're in position, but if you use the aim button to look through the scope, you should be able to get a pretty accurate shot. Then just use the weapon button to pull the trigger, and the propellant will shoot the grenade out of the launcher. Immediately after that, stabilizer fins will deploy from the back of the grenade. After it travels about 35 feet, the rocket fuel inside the grenade will ignite, accelerating the grenade towards its target. Even if it doesn't hit the target, the safety mechanism will kick in and cause it to self-destruct when it exceeds the target range or after a few seconds of flight. The warhead is made of the plastic explosive heat. It's capable of penetrating up to 13 inches of armor. That should be enough to shoot down a heavily armored attack chopper. Oh, one more thing. The rocket fires when the grenade first starts its descent, so don't try to fire it real close to the ground.
So you can't use it from a lying position.
Right. Don't forget that.
I won't.
Gonna use a grenade, huh? That's an RGD-5, the standard blast fragmentation grenade of the Soviet Army. The grenade itself is composed of 2 steel-plated casings. Each of those casings has an inner fragment liner that causes it to burst into over 300 shards when the grenade explodes. The grenade will deliver heavy damage to any enemies within its blast area. The safety pin is on the opposite side relative to the M26, so be sure to hold the safety lever down with your finger when you grip it. The safety is released when you actually throw the grenade, and it'll explode about 3 seconds later.
So what you're saying is, it won't explode in my hand while I'm holding it?
Of course not.
No.
To throw a grenade, press and release the weapon button. Remember that how far you throw it depends on how long the button's pressed. A short tap will drop it close to you, and a long press will lob it away. It'll probably be easier to control your throw if you do it in first-person view. You're thinking of using a white phosphorus grenade. Like the name says, a white phosphorus grenade is one that uses white phosphorus to create an incendiary effect. White phosphorus grenades were used by the U.S. military during World War II. Back then, they were known as Willie Pete's, after the first 2 letters of white phosphorus. The one you've got there is probably the exact same thing. White phosphorus is a white, waxy substance that spontaneously combusts when it reacts with oxygen. The combustion temperature is over 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Any human targets within the area of effect when it explodes are gonna get seriously burned. Just make sure you don't accidentally set yourself on fire. If your body does catch on fire, either plunge into some water or take off the burning clothes and put on new ones. Rolling repeatedly should put the flames out pretty quick, too. I've never seen a grenade like that one before. There are two basic types of grenades. Fragmentation grenades, which use shrapnel to kill or maim the target, and explosive grenades, which use the blast from the explosion as the offensive means. But the grenade you've got there isn't either of those. My best guess is that it's meant to knock the enemy out without hurting them. Most likely, it's an entirely new kind of weapon developed exclusively at Groznygrad. I've heard that the SAS is working on a low-impact grenade for training purposes, but I never thought they'd be used in an actual battle. The flash of light that occurs when the grenade explodes is probably produced by magnesium. It's the same stuff that's used in camera flashes. I'm thinking they cut down on killing power by reducing the amount of explosives and made up for it by making the flash and bang so strong that it overwhelms the enemy's senses. I guess you could call it a stun grenade.
If I'm going to be stunned, I'd rather it be by a woman.
Snap out of it. Anyone around when that thing goes off will be laid out. It ought to come in handy when you're trying to storm a room or when you don't want to kill the enemy. Thinking of using a smoke grenade, huh? As you might expect, smoke grenades can be used to create a smoke screen. The combustion agent is a mixture of zinc oxide, ammonium chloride, aluminum, and some other stuff. When it explodes, it releases a thick cloud of grayish-white smoke that resists dispersion. That should provide some nice cover. The smoke will confuse the enemy by blocking their field of vision. That'll help you out when you're trying to make a quick getaway. It also works the other way around. You can use it as cover to sneak up on an enemy position. The smoke screen should work just as well when you're being chased by dogs, too. That's a weird grenade you got there. From what I can tell, it's an anti-electronics weapon that works by scattering a bunch of metal foil in the air to interfere with radio signals. Call it a chaff grenade, if you will. By using a chaff grenade, you can disrupt the function of enemy radios and electronic devices for a short period of time. But keep in mind that as long as the chaff is in effect, you won't be able to use your motion detector or active sonar either. You say you're using a magazine? A magazine is what's left when you empty the clip of a gun. But what do you plan to do with it?
I'm going to throw it.
Throw it?
Yeah. The sound it makes when it hits the ground will distract the enemy's attention.
Ah, a diversion. Guess state-of-the-art weapons aren't the only things that determine victory or defeat. Looks like you've got some TNT. TNT is short for trinitrotoluene, a pale yellow crystalline compound made from a trinitrified mix of nitric acid and sulfuric acid. It's used throughout the world as a military explosive. It has a low sensitivity and is chemically stable, making it easy to handle. It's also got a low melting point and can easily be shaped by boiling or steaming. But because the sensitivity is so low, you need a booster to actually get it to explode.
No problem. It came with its own remote control detonator.
Good. Then all you have to do is press the weapon button to place the TNT, and then press the CQC button to set it off. The map screen in the survival viewer will display the locations where you've planted TNT. Take warning though, the radio signal for the detonator is pretty weak. Don't forget that pressing the CQC button will only set off TNT that's planted in the same area. Got some C3, I see. C3 is a type of plastic explosive developed in the West for special operations use following World War II. It's composed of 77% RDX and 23% moldable plastic. Like Eva was saying, you can mold it into different shapes like clay. C3 is less volatile than TNT, so a little heat or shock won't be enough to set it off. It's extremely easy to handle and highly effective. Looks like Eva set up the detonators with a special timer mechanism.
Yeah, she made it so that when the timer hits 0, all 4 charges will detonate at the same time.
Did she now? Then you better wait until you plant all 4 charges on the liquid fuel tanks before you start the timer. And remember, you only have enough C3 to do the job. Don't go sticking that stuff anywhere but the liquid fuel tanks in the hangar. Got it?
Got it.
Ah, you got yourself some claymores. The M18A1 Claymore is a new type of anti-personnel directional mine developed in the US after the Korean War. The gently curved casing is packed with 1.5 pounds of high-grade explosives. The side facing the enemy is lined with 700 steel ball bearings. So when the mine explodes, the ball bearings simultaneously burst out of the casing. Anyone in the kill zone, be he friend or foe, is instant Swiss cheese. The mine is triggered by an electric detonator. Apparently, the detonator's got some kind of special motion detector built in.
Yeah. When the mine is planted, it reacts to anything that comes close and automatically explodes.
Just make sure you don't trip your own mine or something stupid like that.
I'll be careful.
You can pick up a planted claymore by crawling over it. Mines planted by the enemy can also be picked up in this way. So if you come across a minefield, it's a good idea to crawl through it and pick up the mines.
What are they doing making minefields out of Western mines anyway?
They're probably doing field performance evaluations on mines they either captured or stole from the West. The structure of the claymore isn't actually all that complicated. They must be learning a lot about them. It might not be long before we start seeing Claymoresque mines. Ah, I see you got yourself an M37. The M37 is a 12-gauge pump-action shotgun. Don't expect any kind of accuracy from a distance, but one blast will send the enemy flying, and it's got some serious firepower, too. Good thing to have with you in close-range combat. It takes a while to reload, though, so plan accordingly. The thing that really distinguishes the M37 is that it's lightweight. It's about 2 pounds lighter than other shotguns. In fact, it's so light that it's been nicknamed the Featherlight.
Yeah, and to top it off, this one's had its barrel and stock sawed off.
That's probably a modification to make it easier to wield in the jungle. Those Soviet boys know what they're doing. I guess the other distinguishing feature would be the lack of an ejection port on the side of the receiver.
Ambidextrous, huh?
Exactly. It's been designed so you can use it left-handed or right-handed with equal ease. But that's not all. The low number of apertures means that it won't get jammed up as much with mud and dirt when you use it out in the field. This weapon is made for the jungle.
Good to know. But what are they doing with an American-made shotgun?
Good question. I guess they could be doing research on Western weapons, but... Did you ever hear about the SAS using shotguns in the jungle combat in Malaya?
Just stories.
In the jungle, you're always running into the enemy when you least expect it. The SAS found the shotgun to be extremely effective, delivering massive firepower in a short period of time. Because of that, lately a lot of point men are starting to use shotguns as their weapon of choice. Vogan's men might be trying that tactic out for themselves. You're using a Mosin Nagant?
Yeah, it's what the End was using.
I see. The M1891-30 Mosin Nagant is a real beauty of a bolt-action sniper rifle. It's been in use since World War II. Mosin Nagants are created by selecting the best-made weapons out of the regular M1891-30 rifle production line for their high precision, and upgrading them to sniper rifles. They add an optical sight, make the trigger pull lighter, bend the charging handle underneath, that kind of stuff. The Mosin Nagant has been known far and wide since the war for its superior capabilities. They were so highly valued that a lot of German snipers on the Eastern Front preferred to use captured Mosin Nagants instead of their own rifles. It looks like the N took the one he'd been using since the war and modified it to fire tranquilizer rounds.
Yeah, it's also been fitted with a folding stock and a pistol grip.
Maybe for parachute jumps? Well, I don't know why he did it, but that's the tool of a legendary sniper. It's gotta be a fine piece of work. But remember, the Mosin Nagant is a bolt-action rifle, so you'll have to load a new tranquilizer round into the chamber by hand every time you fire. That means no repeat firing. One shot, one kill. When you equip a sniper rifle, you'll go straight into first-person view. Once you're in position, press the aim button to look through the scope. The trigger is the weapon button as usual. You can change the magnification on the scope by pressing the action button. You can fire from a standing position, but your aim will be a heck of a lot steadier if you're lying down. Try it out. I see you're using the binoculars. Those are high-performance binoculars made especially for the military. They're completely waterproof and are filled with nitrogen gas to prevent lens fog. The eyepiece, objective lenses, and the prism have been coated to reduce glare. They ought to work plenty well, even in dark places. And they're even equipped with autofocus and zoom functions. Won't find a better pair of binoculars than that.
What are you, a binocular salesman?
Hey, I know a good product when I see one, that's all.
Huh.
Hey, what's that you're wearing?
Night vision goggles. This gadget lets me see in the dark by amplifying light and displaying it as images.
Amplifying light?
That's what it looks like to me.
Well, I'll be damned. They're working on something like that here in the States, but so far it's not viable unless it's coupled with an infrared searchlight. And now the Russians have something you can carry with you. Anyway, those goggles should give you a decent visual range even in dark places. But don't look at anything bright like fire or it'll get burned into your eyes and you won't be able to see for a while. Be careful. Hey, what's that you've got there?
Thermal goggles. From what I can tell, they detect and display sources of heat.
You're kidding me. They actually made a passive infrared night vision device small enough to carry around with you?
What, is that special or something?
Is it special? Here in the West, we've just barely got the technology to install it on aircraft.
So that's what that thing is they put on the gunship. But doesn't the Army have something like that for driving vehicles at night? I thought I saw...
You mean the ANPAS-5? That's an active infrared night vision device. It fires infrared beams from an infrared projector and uses the reflections to build an image. Those goggles you've got there are completely different. Basically, when you've got those equipped, you'll be able to spot enemy soldiers in the jungle with ease, even if they're camouflaged. They might even help you find traps. But you won't be able to see the terrain as well, so watch your step. Snake, you smoking a cigarette?
It's not a cigarette. It's a cigar.
Same thing?
It's not the same thing.
Doesn't matter to me. What I want to know is, why'd you take it with you?
Because I need it.
For what?
I can't smoke a cigar if I don't have one, can I?
So you just wanted to smoke it?
Yeah.
Man, you got problems. Do what you want. Just keep in mind that your life goes down when you're smoking it. Got some life medicine, huh? Life medicine is...
Life medicine is a drug recently developed by the Soviet Union for use in battle. The components are still a mystery, but it seems to activate the body's regenerative processes and makes injuries heal faster.
Well,
Open the window and press the enter button to instantly replenish your life. Useful, huh? Huh? What's wrong, Sigint?
Never mind. I see you have the bug juice equipped. It's useful for keeping the bugs away. If you open the item window and press the enter button, you'll be able to keep the nasty critters like hornets and leeches at bay for a brief period of time. Use it well. Snake, what are you doing?
I'm in a box.
A cardboard box? Why are you...
I don't know, I was just looking at it, and suddenly I got this irresistible urge to get inside. No, not just an urge. More than that. It was my destiny to be here, in the box.
Destiny?
Yeah, and then when I put it on, I suddenly got this feeling of inner peace. I can't put it into words. I feel safe. Like this is where I was meant to be. Like I'd found the key to true happiness. Does any of that make sense?
Not even a little.
You should come inside the box. Then you'll know what I mean.
Man, I don't want to know what you mean. Between you and paramedic, is everyone but me that is hooked up with a major strange? Yeah, well, anyway, I suppose even that dumbass box might make a decent disguise if you wear it inside a building. Using the anti-personnel sensor, I see. The sensor vibrates when it detects organic reactions from human targets. It's been adjusted to respond only to humans, so unlike other sensors, it'll let you ignore animals and focus only on the enemy. It'll even detect enemies that aren't moving, and you won't have to worry about it giving away your position. But on the flip side, it won't tell you the exact location of the target. Keep that in mind when you're using it. Also, remember that when you use it in first-person view, it'll only scan in the direction you're facing. Using the mine detector, huh? When you equip the mine detector, it lets you know with a sound if there are any claymore mines nearby. A mine detector is basically a metal detector, so ordinarily it reacts to scrap iron the same way it reacts to mines. They say that only about 1 out of every 100 objects it responds to is an actual mine. Not exactly what you'd call reliable. So they're researching other ways to detect mines, like sniffing for molecules given off by explosives and using a kind of underground radar. One of these days, they might actually make something that works. But the one you're using is apparently set up so that it only reacts when it finds a claymore on the ground. No need to worry about it being fooled by anything other than a mine. Active sonar sends out a special type of sound wave whenever you press the left stick. It uses the echo from those waves to calculate and display the position of nearby objects. Unlike the motion detector, it'll show you objects that aren't moving. But because you're blasting out sound waves, there's a risk that the noise will alert enemies and animals to your presence. Be careful about when and where you use it. The motion detector will display any moving objects in your vicinity. But the enemy isn't the only thing that's moving around in the jungle. If there are animals moving nearby, the sensor will pick up those animals too. And remember that there's a limit to how sensitive it is. Enemies and animals that don't move around very much won't get picked up. I see you've picked up a directional microphone. The directional microphone is exactly what it looks like, a listening device. When you equip it, you'll go into first-person view and the mic will pick up sounds in whatever direction you point it in. The directional microphone will let you hear a lot of things you couldn't hear otherwise, like really soft noises and the footsteps of faraway enemy soldiers. You ought to find it useful when you want to know whether there's an enemy on the other side of the woods or something. Try it out.